Previously on my birth story part 1.
One thing I neglected to tell you is that once they break your waters, boy, the pain. The pain went from level 1 to level 4, 5-ish. But after they broke my water, the level went from level 5 to 10, all the way to 10. Now that's when I lose control. So just lay down on me. Let your love just fall like rain. Just rain on me. What is the reason? Nobody cares. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If it is your first time here, thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you do consider subscribing to become a part of this growing family of mine. We are on the road to 1,000 subbies, so your support would really mean a lot to me. So please go ahead and subscribe. It only takes 1 second. You see that red button down here below? It says subscribe, so please click on it. I'll wait for you. We're done? We're good? Right. So today I'm back with part 2 of my birth story. And if you haven't had a chance to watch part 1, please go ahead and watch that and then come back to finish watching part 2. So, they broke my waters. And I put on this huge pad, and I just continued doing what I was doing, walking up and down the passage like a mad woman. And I did say that when they broke my waters, the pain just escalated. Like, I never expected it. You know, the pressure just got worse and worse and worse. And they were like, yeah, now you're in real labor. Like, yeah, you see now this is what labor actually looks like. And why didn't anybody tell me that it would be? And you know what, the thing is, my last appointment when I was 39 weeks, one of my doulas did say that it is gonna be painful. Like, she was very honest and brutal with me. She was like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's gonna be painful, it's gonna hurt a lot, it's gonna hurt, but one thing about it is that you will get through it. Just focus on your breathing and you will be fine. Like, you really will. So I did kind of get a warning as to that it will be painful, but I didn't expect that it was going to be this painful. Alright. I remember saying to my mom, yo, can this get any? Because it was just that painful. The thing is, it felt like I wasn't even getting a break in between the contractions. It felt like it was 30 seconds and then another contraction. 30 seconds, another contraction. I was like, hi boo, I can't breathe. So I don't really know how to describe what I was feeling. There was just a lot of pressure on my belly, and at some point it felt like I needed to go to the toilet, do a number 2, but nothing was coming out, and like, I just couldn't understand what was going on. And one of the midwives kept asking me if I felt like I needed to push, and I was like, no, sweetheart, I just feel a lot of pressure, but nothing is hinting that I want to push. So I don't think I'm there yet. And mind you, my partner hadn't even arrived at this time, and senginar manje, I'm frustrated, I'm in pain, I need him to be here, I need to hold him, and he hasn't arrived. And I remember he called and my mom was like, oh, your partner's calling. And I was like, hey, because I was just so over it. I was like, no, you can talk to him. And she was like, some phone. So I remember I just went to the toilet and I just sat down, and I don't even know what I was doing, to be honest. I just sat down on the toilet seat, and like I said, nothing was coming out. But for some reason, I think the pain just felt better when I was sitting on the toilet. I think I've heard somewhere, I don't remember where I saw it, I think it was on Instagram, and they were like, when you sit on the toilet, I don't know what happens to the baby, or the pain is just easily manageable, something like that. I don't remember, but it was something along those lines. And I just sat on the toilet seat, ngazimamela. Oh, and I sat there for so long. And my midwife asked me what I was doing, and I was like, I don't know, I'm just sitting. Honestly, I'm just sitting. And then she asked me again if I felt like I needed to push, and I was like, nope, it's just still a lot of pressure, that's it. So I don't remember if it was a few minutes later or something like that. I don't even remember what time it was or what was like, but I know that it was around the afternoon. It had to be around afternoon. So okay, they decided to check me again. So I lay on the bed and they checked me once again, and disappointingly I was still on 4 centimeters dilated, but a lot of pain, and I just wasn't dilating. But baby boy, good, heartbeat good. They took my mom to the other room, and I think they had a mini meeting there. And of course I didn't hear everything, but I caught enough just to understand what was going on. And I just heard them saying, look, she's in a lot of pain, but she's not dilating. And one of my midwife was like, the doula was like, no, but you said you could feel the baby's head, so what are we doing wrong? And then I just heard, hey, we're gonna need to transfer her to the hospital. When I heard those words, I was like, it's over. There goes the birth of my dreams. So you need to know that I did mention that this was a birth center, so it's kind of like a home birth unit, if I may put it that way. So the setting is not in a hospital, and they do not perform C-sections. When we were signing the contract, there was a clause that said, in case of an emergency and they need to be transferred, a transfer will happen. Emergencies such as like performing a C-section, and where I would need like an assisted birth. When you decide to give birth with a midwife, they don't interfere, for lack of a better word, they don't interfere too much in the birth process. So it is purely psychological, and they mostly depend and rely on you to sort of give them a go ahead on what to do, how you're feeling, what is your gut feeling telling you. So it is purely natural in that way, you know. Yeah, if I got transferred to the hospital, I would have an assisted birth. It wouldn't be psychological and right. They have the clause where they say in case of an emergency you may need to be transferred to a public hospital, which is not what we signed up for. There's a reason why we didn't want to give birth in a public hospital, and we ended up deciding to look for a home birth center that was led by midwives, and I would basically just be myself in the whole birthing process and just have it as natural as it can possibly be. And you know, that was our goal going into this birth. And now to hear that I may have to be transferred to a public hospital was like so at this point I'm just like, I'm on the bed, but I'm like on my knees, and I'm so defeated because this was the last thing I expected to happen. I was not happy, but I couldn't even say anything, you know. I didn't even know if I should fight or just listen to them and be taken to a public hospital after all the money that we have paid to them for me to have this birth in the birth center. So they came back to my room, and they were like, look, you are not dilating and we are worried. You're in a lot of pain, and even though baby is still fine, we're just worried that if you continue to not dilate, the baby might eventually get distressed, and that would just make things like more harder for you. So we think it's best that we transfer you to the hospital where they can further assist you. And I didn't even look at her. I just remember looking down, not being able to say a word. And I remember my mom walking in and she started crying, and I was like, I was completely speechless. I didn't have anything to say. I was so defeated. And then she was like, so I'm gonna need to prep you to go to the hospital. Oh, and they were like, the reason that we think this is happening is because of, so they basically diagnosed me with CPD, and that is when they suspect that the baby's head may be big, and that is why I wasn't dilating. So the baby's head was not fitting into my birth canal, and that's what was causing me to not dilate. So yeah, they were like, we're gonna need to transfer you, and we really think that you might eventually get a C-section. and not birth naturally anymore. So it was like not only was I not going to give birth in an environment that I wanted to, and an atmosphere that I had set for myself with my loved ones around me, but now there's a possibility that I might not even give birth naturally anymore. So everything happened so fast. So they prepped me, they put a drip, and I think it's called a cathedral, something like that. I'll put the word somewhere here down on the screen, but it's that thing that collects your urine, so you don't have to go to the toilet, because I was going to be traveling, so I wouldn't really have the opportunity to go to the toilet. So yeah, they decided to put that on me, and a drip. And that thing is so uncomfortable. Like, it's so uncomfortable. So they did that, and yeah, they basically, because they were in communication with my partner, and they told him that they're actually transferring me to the public hospital because he hadn't yet arrived, and we were just waiting on him to arrive so that I could go. And oh yeah, another thing I wanted to mention is that after she checked me for the last time, only to find out that I was still 4 centimeters dilated, it felt like I thought my water had broken, and it did, but after she checked me again, the rest of the water just kept coming out. It felt like the first time they broke my waters, that was just like part 1, but after that time, it came out like it felt like it was a tap opening, and it was just water coming out. I'm bad at describing things, but those who know. So I got up. Now I have to carry a drip and this cathedral thing in my bob, and I'm in pain. So it was just, and you know what, I was just over it, to be honest. It got to a point where I was so over it now, because it just seems like things are not working out. So I got off the bed and we walked outside, where I was like still, and the contractions were still having me. And they offered me tea to drink, and I took a sip, and I was like, no, I don't want this. I couldn't even focus on anything. The only thing that I could focus on were these contractions, and I was just, I did my best to just stay calm, regardless of what was happening. And I was just there. My mom was on the side, and this side, it was an assistant. I think she was I'm not sure, I don't even remember, because she just came out of nowhere. But I think she was an assistant at the public hospital that I was going to be transferred to. And yeah, like I said, she just got there out of the blue, and next thing I know, she was here. And yeah, now she's there. She's telling me to breathe in and out. She's telling me that everything's gonna be okay. you know, and I'm just, I was listening to her, but at the same time I was really not interested. And I remember now she's asking my mom how she's feeling. Now my mom's crying again, and I'm like, yo, why are you crying? You're making me sad. Like, don't cry. And she was just like, nah, it's just seeing her in this pain, knowing that there's nothing that I can do to help her is what's making me feel sad. And I was like, oh. And I'm just grateful that at least through my early stages of labor, my mom was with me from the beginning, right until I had to go to the hospital. So I was like very blessed and happy about that. And it made the experience a bit easier for me, I think, you know. And eventually my partner arrived, and yeah, they just told him, yeah, this is where your journey ends with us, unfortunately. We are going to go to the hospital right now. They basically told him what they had told me all along, that they're just worried that if they wait and I don't like continue to dilate, the baby might get into stress, and they don't want it to get it that far, basically. And I remember him asking, so are you guys saying there's absolutely no way that she's gonna have a natural birth? And they were like, yeah, we are pretty sure that she is going to have to get a C-section. They even made me take out my nose ring, because apparently no jewelry is allowed in the theater where you're meant to be having a C-section. They were like, so it's better to take it off now, because when you get there you won't have time to take it off. And that's how I lost my nose ring from that day until this day. But that's irrelevant to what we are talking about right now. So basically I took it off and I gave it to my mom, and of course she lost it. And there began my journey to the hospital. My mom basically took out the things that I didn't need, and she just left the things that I would need for my hospital bag, and then she would go home with those things. And then yeah, they basically drove me to the hospital. I don't know if I should mention the name, I don't know, but I just won't, for whatever reasons. So we made our journey to the hospital. It was my midwife was driving us, and my doula was in the passenger seat, and at the back was me, my partner, and my mom on the other side. I just remember he was trying his best to make me feel calm about the situation, and I could just tell that he was helpless. He didn't know what to do, but just try his best to comfort me. And I remember him even making a silly joke saying that at least we know whose head the baby has, because kinda cool. And yeah, shame, like I wasn't having it. I was just in pain. Gamo, I'm holding, there's a drip that is attached to me, there's a catheter that is attached to me, and I am soaking wet. I just keep yo, it was a lot. I don't want to lie, it was a lot. So we eventually get to the hospital and they go and they fetch a wheelchair for me. They bring back the wheelchair and they put me on the wheelchair. And yeah, so I got on the wheelchair and I took my bag and I had to say goodbye to my mom and my partner. And it was just like the saddest sight ever. Like, it was the saddest sight. Oh, I just remember being pushed away from them and they were just standing there, look at me as I was going into the hospital. And I think when I was on the wheelchair moving away from them, that's when reality sort of hit me with so this is really happening, like I get to the hospital. Now I have to basically make another file. They took me to the reception, I guess, and they basically directed us to this office where I had to just write a few of my personal details down, and then I would proceed to go to, is it the labor ward? Yeah. And yeah, when we got to that office, they basically left me there. The midwife and the doula, they like, okay, you are gonna be okay. We have spoken to one of the nurses inside and they're gonna take care of you, so don't worry. And they were like, bye bye, and that was it. So now I'm all alone. I'm in pain. I am completely distraught. I'm out of it. Shucks. Like, how did we get here? And I remember my partner sending me a text because he needed something from me, and I looked at the message and I was just so weak. I remember my phone falling and I couldn't even pick it up because bekungavumi. So they took down my personal details, and I remember that I was just so out of it and my eyes were closed and I was just listening to this pain. And then one of the women asked me, what's wrong? In my head I'm like, what do you mean what's wrong? Like, can you not see that I'm in pain? That's when they took me to the labor ward, and that's when I had to get off the wheelchair and sit on the bench and basically wait for an empty bed so that I could go and get on the bed. There is something about a labor ward that is traumatic. There's something about seeing a woman in pain and agony, seeing women screaming and moaning and just basically begging for their lives, that is traumatic. And now I was just about to become one of those women. I sat on the bench and I keep looking up and down this room and I'm seeing all these women and I'm just like, what was I even thinking in my head? I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. All I know is that I was in pain. And I sat there and I just kept swinging like left to right. Just like trying to deal with this pain. And eventually, there was an empty bed, and then this nurse called me to come to the bed. And I got up, and immediately when I got up, I looked on the bench, and the bench was wet. That's how I don't even know how to call it. What do I call it? That's how wet I was from my waters breaking. The pad was full. It was so full that it eventually got onto my pants. So now my pants are wet and the bench is wet and I'm a mess. You know what? So I walked to the bed, and when I get there, she was like, okay, take off your pants and get into the bed. Yo, ngaze ngasokola to take off my track pants, guys. Because remember, I have these things that are attached to me. There's this drip, there's this catheter, and this catheter is obviously attached to my urethra. So now, I don't know what was happening, but in Tambu, somewhere, somehow, they got mixed up, and now it became a mission. It became a mission for me to remove my pants. And I remember her saying to me, ngiyabona wena ucabanga ukuthi la kusebalungwini la uphuma khona ungoshela isikhathi. And then she was like, ngizobuya masuqedile. And I was like, girl, are you serious? In my head, of course. Like, the experience just kept on getting more and more real. Like, yeah, a reality check beyingena kancane ukuthi yeah, now you're in a public hospital. Like, shit is about to get real. Okay, so I don't know how, but I eventually managed to take off my pants, and then I got on the bed. Then after some time, she came, and then she checked me again. Not again, she checked me. She put on those belts that go around my stomach. Those ones that monitor the heartbeat of the baby and my contractions. And she didn't say a word. After she did that, she just said, lay on your back, and she left. So now, like, I'm wondering what's going on, like, what's happening. Because obviously, Mina, when I got to the hospital, my expectation was that I'm definitely going to get a C-section. So why am I still being like put on this bed and being monitored and being checked? Am I not meant to be going to the theater to have my C-section? Hey, I was over it. Like, I just wanted this baby out of me, like, immediately, as soon as possible, with immediate effect. So she did that and she left. She didn't say a word. Now I'm just laying there on my back, and there is nothing that is worse in life than laboring while you are on the bed. It's the most uncomfortable thing ever, because you just lay there feeling helpless, and it's like there's nothing you can do. And I remember being in so much pain, and I decided to lay on my side, to lay on my right side, because somehow, for some reason, the pain just felt a bit better and a bit more bearable when I lay on my side. So I lay on my side for a bit, And then I just remember just looking at that screen just to check if my baby's heartbeat was still fine. And immediately when I saw that it was dropping or something was happening, I immediately switched to go back to my bag, just for it to be okay again, and then go back to my side again, and then go. So it was just that continuous cycle of just switching to my back and my side, any position just to make the pain a bit bearable. And I remember my right side being so numb and so tired because it was the only side I was using, and I couldn't even like alternate to lay on my left side because immobility mntakabawo seyiphelile at this point. I'm unable to I can't even move to the other side because I'm in so much pain. And I'm just like, yo baba, yo ngenelela, because angazi kuzoyenzakalani manje. And okay, so while I was lying on that bed, I remember feeling this thing come over my body, and I have never ever felt anything like that before. It was like my body just started voluntarily pushing on its own, and I was like, hey, but what is going on? Like, what's happening? And my body was pushing, and and I'm like, oh my god, does this mean the baby's coming or what? So I would get that feeling, my body would push and then it would stop, and then that feeling would come back again. Hey, the thing is, like, you can't control it. It is ibhlungu ne, and it's just I can't even describe it. It's just mind-blowing. I can't even find the words to describe it. And now there was a time when I just couldn't anymore, and I started screaming like, the baby's coming, somebody help me, like, what's going on, And there was a woman who was next to me, and she gave birth like on the spot before she could even be transferred to the delivery room. And I remember they were getting ready to move her to the delivery room, but she didn't make it. She just gave birth on the spot. And I remember they were saying, don't push. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you say that when her body is just voluntarily doing the pushing on its own? Like, make it make sense, And now I'm trying to take what they are saying and apply it to me, because I'm thinking, if my body is pushing, then shuthi nami akumelanga ngipushe ngoba nami ngizongena enkingeni, And I just tried my best to not push and just let my body do what it was doing on its own. Yeah. And then eventually and finally another male nurse came, and he checked me, and he was like, okay, you are 10 centimeters dilated. And I was like, wow, what do you mean I'm 10 centimeters dilated? How is that even possible? Because I was told that I'm not dilating, and the chances of me getting a C-section are like right now a 10 out of 10. So what do you mean I'm 10 centimeters dilated? Does this mean I'm gonna actually push my baby out? You know, I mean, those were the thoughts that were running through my head at the time. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna need to transfer you to the delivery room. And then that's when they called the nurse who was gonna assist me with my birth. And yeah, I basically had to take my belongings and head over to the delivery room. That was the longest walk of my life. Long walk to freedom. Yo, ngaze ngayenza a long walk to freedom. And during the walk, I remember like her just rushing me, like, hurry up, and I'm like, Sisi, I'm doing my best at this point, and I can't give you anything beyond what I'm already giving you, you know, because I'm walking and there's obviously I'm in pain. It's the drips and the what I'm carrying my bag, and I'm like, this is the time that I really actually needed a wheelchair, and I needed a wheelchair when I needed the most, like, yo. So I eventually get to the delivery room, and yeah, I get onto the bed, and yeah, and I guess she decided to check me, and then she was like, you are actually 9 centimeters dilated, so we need to wait for we need to wait until you're 10 centimeters. And I'm like, yo. So I came from the labor ward only to come to the delivery ward, only to wait again. Yo, hayi, angiyazi into enje, angaze ngayibona into enje, angaze ngayibona into enje emhlabeni bethunana. Okay, so now I'm sitting there, and I think I just became numb to the pain. I think it just got to a point where I don't want to say I didn't like feel the pain anymore, but they say normal, like ipain yakhona besejwayelekile. So and I think I just accepted it. There's nothing I can do about it, so let me just ride through the wave. So that's what I did. I sat on the bed, and I remember there were 2 like students or something in the room, and I just sat on that bed, and my body was still pushing, and every time that feeling came over me, I just wanted to hold on to something, because like I didn't know what to do. Like, should I push with you? Should I? But at the back of my head, I'm still trying my best not to push, you know. So I sit on the bed, I sit, and I'm just looking down. And I remember she left the room, and then she came back again, and then she was like, she said something like, the students that were in the room kept going to check on her to tell her that I'm in pain. And then she was like, how can this person who is so calm be in pain? Because I was just saying, I'm just like, okay, I guess this is what happens in places like this. So after some time, she checked again, and I was finally 10 centimeters dilated. And then they were like, oh great, it's time for you to push. So it's time to push, right? I don't remember how the room ended up being so full, because last time I checked it was just those 2 interns and the nurse that was assisting me with the birth. Mara manje mangithi jiki jiki, there are so many people surrounding my bed and I'm like, kwenzakalani. Okay, I push, and at this time also I didn't even think I would have the energy to push, because remember, I hadn't slept for 2 nights, I hadn't eaten like a proper meal, and the last peanut butter sandwich that I had back at the birth center, I ended up vomiting. Like every time I ate, it all came back out. So ngiwiki anga energy ngilambile, so I don't know how I was going to be able to push a human being out of my body at this point. But you know what, sesifikile lana ekugcineni, so it has to happen somehow, somewhere, some form or shape. So I push, take a break, I push, and I relax. Highball, and then all of a sudden this nurse, I carry the bed is like this net, and then there's this, like, this part of the bed can go up to support your back. So it was up the whole entire time. And then she decides to push it down because she says I am too relaxed, I'm not pushing. And I was like, this woman wants my soul right now. She really is testing me. Okay, so she puts it down, and yeah, every time I feel a contraction I push, and when it stops I relax, and when it comes back I push. And there was this woman here who was busy she was doing like this to my stomach, and I'm wondering why she was doing that. But somewhere along the lines, as I was pushing, I heard them say, oh, we can see his hair, or rather the hair, because they didn't know the gender, but we can see hair. So for me that was like, okay, I'm almost there, so let me just keep on pushing, and before I know it, baby boy will be here. So I kept on pushing, and then I don't know what happened, but the nurse actually ended up giving me an episiotomy. So basically an episiotomy is when they make a small cut in between your vagina and your anus, just to assist your baby to come out. So, and then before I knew it, half of his body was out, and she told me to push one more time, and I did, and the rest of his body was out. And I remember just being so relieved, like I was so relieved. And I think I was too relieved for my liking, because I didn't even notice that he didn't cry or anything like that. And I don't know what she did. She did something to him, and then he started crying. And she lifted him up like this, and she asked me what gender, what he was. And I was like, of course it's a boy, I've known this for a while. And that's when they took him to the other room. And yeah, and then everyone left the room, and for the first time in a while I was alone in the room, and I cried, and I remember being so upset with God, because I was like, I literally don't ask you for a lot of things in this life of mine, but I only asked you for one thing. I asked you to just ensure that everything goes well and that we have the birth that we planned, but you didn't give me that. And of course this came from a place of being hurt at the fact that I didn't get the birth of my dreams, my water birth, surrounded by the people that I love, with candles, music, and I was hurting because of that, but I was also hurting and I was upset with the birth center because they told me that they were like 100% sure that I would get a C-section, and I didn't. So I just felt like they could have been more patient with the process, and they weren't. Instead, they were just in a hurry to transfer me to the hospital without like just waiting to see what happened, because this is birth and so many things happen. And I understand that for them it was, I needed to be safe, the baby needed to be safe, and that was their first priority more than anything. But I felt like as midwives they should have known better. I mean, with birth being such a natural and psychological thing, they should have really done a better job at handling everything, you know. And like I say, this was before I actually sat down and I thought about everything that had happened, the events that had occurred, and I was like, you know, man, Tando, no. Things could have actually gone a whole lot worse than what they were, you know. It could have ended up being like a completely different story. But first, I gave birth naturally, and secondly, I gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby boy. So what is it that I am actually complaining about, you know? And that's when I looked at it like completely differently, and I was like, I'm actually quite blessed, you know. Even though I didn't have the birth of my dreams, I still made it out alive. I could have died. My baby could have not made it, but here we are, and we are good. We are safe. We are healthy, and that's really all that matters, you know. And that's when I actually started healing from the whole process, and I was actually okay, you know. So yeah, I feel like there are so many things that I wanted to say throughout this video, but as soon as you start filming, like, all of these things that you want to say just like they vanish, they just disappear like that. But basically that was my birth story. Will I have more kids? No. Hell no. Look, that is completely up to God. If it is in God's plan for me to have more kids, then I definitely will have more kids. But right now, I definitely not even focused on that. All I want to do is just raise my baby boy, and we'll see what happens as ubomi buhamba, because this life is very, very unpredictable. So there's no telling what the future has in store for us. This is our life. This is my life currently. And it couldn't get any better. Thank you so much for making it to this very far end of this video. I'm closing off the video, galuk, and then I'll give you your full undivided attention. Just allow me to close this video, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment.